Well, hello and welcome back to the Preacher Life. Today we are going to look at the last section of this diving into Scripture, and that will be the Tower of Babel, or Babel, and it depends on who you ask. Say it has many different pronunciations, but I'm probably going to say Tower of Babel. So last week we ended with Genesis 9. And Genesis 10 contains all the nations or people that descended from Noah. And it gives his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, their descendants, and is a whole list of the table of nations. Then Genesis 11. The first 9 verses give the Tower of Babel. And this is kind of like Genesis 1 and 2. And that Genesis 1 gave the overview, and Genesis 2 gave more detailed of creation. So Genesis 10 gave the details gave the overview of what went on for the people, of how they dispersed, and now Genesis 11 gives more details of why they went. So let's start with Genesis 11, verse 1. Now the whole earth had one language and one speech. And, well, this makes sense, because they were all descendants of Adam and Eve, and therefore, as one family, they all spoke one language. And that continued with Noah and his sons, that of course, they spoke one language. So we continue. Back with verse 1, sorry. Now the whole earth had one language and one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. So let's stop there a second, and remember that after the flood, God had said to Noah and his sons that they needed to produce and fill the earth, or go out everywhere. But we see here that their descendants wanted to make a name for themselves, or make themselves great, and not be scattered across the earth. So they went against what God had said and told them to do. So let's continue on here, starting at verse 5, and we'll see the results. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language, and this is what they begin to do. Now, nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore its name is called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. So imagine that they start working on this great tower, and one day they're all speaking the same and communicate. But the next day, some will get together and things will have changed. So maybe something of the sort went like this. Buenos dias, amigo. ¿Duerme bien? Necesito que construimos este edificio grande. Amigo, ¿por qué no habla bien? ¿Tú hablas idiomas diferentes? ¿Es tu cabeza duerme? So they're like, huh? What do you mean? Or even something different, like,
Buenas tardes.
say, they're all speaking different languages. So, you want to be with people that you understand. So, that is how people spread across the earth. Now, today, there are something like over 7,000 different languages that are spoken around the earth. However, if we look back here and look at Genesis 10, we see that there were not that many people around yet. However, if you look at language studies, they say that now there are around 150 language roots or 150 language families around the world. So I speak a little bit of Spanish. So my Spanish isn't very good, but it's still something that I can speak a little bit. However, languages such as, say, English, Spanish, German, Italian, Portuguese, all these are of the same root, I believe. And there are others such as, say, Chinese, Mandarin, Chinese, Japanese, Mandarin. You can see kind of in their writings that they are the same as well. So if we get down to a smaller number, then that is much more reasonable. And if we look at Genesis 10 of all the different families, then it's likely one family was each language. So therefore it's very possible and likely that each family had their own language. So that also explains what we see today for different people groups. So as people scattered across the earth, they took specific traits with them as well. So some people that went to, say, Africa, they took traits that have darker skin or melanin with them. And those that, say, went to Western Europe did not have this and had less melanin or lighter skin. And then you get people that went to what is Asia now that have different eye shapes. And therefore, these select groups that were together, therefore they had their shared traits, and that's why they still look like different people groups as we see today. So, if we look to the Bible, we can see that there are no different races. There are different people groups around the world. That we are all the same in God's image and all descended from Adam and Eve and from Noah. But because of the Tower of Babel, or Babel, then we still have the different groups today. And that is what explains the world. So we also can see that if evolution is true, then how do you explain different languages? That there was one or maybe two groups that supposedly evolved into humans, then if they had contact with each other, then they would have spoke the same speech and language, and it doesn't make sense of how they got all the differences around the world today. So those are some things to think about when looking at the Bible. Hello, editing here, and I realized I forgot one item, that just as at the Tower of Babel, that all people were spread across the earth, Well, at the end of time, everyone will be put back together. So I read here in Revelation 7, verses 9 and 10. After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude which no one could number, of all nations, tribes, peoples, and tongues. And tongues is another word for languages. Standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, saying, Salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb. So, no matter what language someone speaks, be it, again, English, Russian, Spanish, German, and take your pick of all the other languages around the world, that salvation is possible for all who come to God and trust in Jesus alone for forgiveness of sins. And just as we have languages as a result of people not following God, well, we can and all will come together again as one for those that come to Him, no matter where we live or how we speak. And I want to make sure that we got that in. So here we go for the rest of the video. Then after Genesis 11 verse 9, it gets into more detail of the life of Abraham, or Abram as he started out as, and then into the land of Israel. That is where we will end today, and thank you very much for watching. Next week I'll probably do some more commentary of objections and items for the first 11 chapters of Genesis. But for now, that is all today, and thank you for watching The Preacher Life. Bye for now.